We should have named the plant. The ficus sat by the window like a witness no one had paid. My name is Devon. I was a copy editor at a city paper that survived on sales of last year's Virtue. The man I loved was Luca, a chef who smelled like smoke and thyme and always looked like he just said yes to something wild. Our apartment had a good sink and a bad radiator, and an index card on the fridge with rules we taped there the week we moved in. Be home when you say. Don't make a crisis at someone else's table. Kiss like you plan to remember it. Nothing about God because we were trying to be practical. We met on a Tuesday when the city pretended it had time. I went to review a pop-up that cooked everything over fire. He cooked like fire belonged to him. He said he recognized me from somewhere, and I said you recognize your own trouble, and he laughed. I gave the opening a paragraph that made strangers hungry. He sent a bottle to the paper the next day and wrote on the note, "You edited me. I owe you time." I called it journalism and then called it dinner and then called it what it was. The first intrusion was a man named Theo, a visiting sommelier with a handshake like a line break. He liked to say that wine teaches patience. He liked to be wrong about small things like that. He joined the restaurant for a month while a magazine had the city on its mind. He and Luca talked about acid like it was fate. I watched them from the end of the bar and counted my breaths and didn't say anything because I was still pretending envy was a personality flaw I'd outgrown. On Thursdays, I played pickup at the gym with a group of men who smiled like they'd been taught how to. After there was Gabe, who managed the front desk and had forearms that did not apologize. He asked me out in the way people ask for water. I said I had someone. He said I wasn't asking for ownership, I was asking for a seat. The idea of being wanted without being drafted felt new, which should have warned me. I said let me think. He said please do it in my direction. Our bedroom lamp had a switch that stuttered. On nights when the bulb flickered, we took it as a sign to stop trying to describe what we wanted and just reach. Luca liked to put his mouth on my hip as if it answered a question he hadn't learned how to ask. I liked to watch his face when he realized he didn't have to audition. We were not saints. We were young enough to treat desire like a sport and old enough to know the stadium would charge us fees. The night Luca let me down without meaning to, he didn't come home on time. He texted, service ran late, and I texted back the kind of thumbs up that tries to be kind and just misses. The ficus leaned toward the radiator like it could learn to enjoy heat. Someone laughed in the hall, too happy for Wednesday. He came in smelling like a cellar, and a man's cologne I couldn't not recognize once I did. I kissed him anyway, because bodies protest with mood before they protest with embargo. He didn't sleep well. He rarely did when he lied. 2 days later, I went to the gym because the body wants to be told what to do when the mind gossips. Gabe led a class, and I let him teach me how to move without facts. After, we walked to a bodega that believed in citrus, and he asked me if I wanted to look at his roof. That is not a euphemism if you are gentle enough. We climbed the stairs like we were practicing fun. On the roof, the city played the part of accomplice. We looked out over other people's stories, and he stepped close without touching. I kissed him because I didn't trust myself not to later. He kissed me back like a man who knows refrains and prefers bridges. We stopped there. We called it discipline and not a preview. Luca asked me that night, in the doorway where our shoes tried to stay organized, if anything was wrong. He had a voice he used when he wanted me to be braver than him. I said I wanted him to be the person who came home smelling like us. He said he'd try. The ficus moved in its pot like a quiet vote. I cooked us pasta with lemon and anchovy the way my grandmother taught me to, modest and unapologetic. We ate at the counter and didn't mention anyone who wasn't there. Theo's month ended. He didn't. He stayed for 2 more as a consultant, and then as a habit, and then as something you don't say when people can hear you. I edited stories about the city and the people who loved it badly. I wrote headlines I didn't believe and went to bed with the man who gave me reasons to. We made love the way people do when they need to prove something to a ghost. He liked when I said his name too early. I liked when he took too long finding my mouth. We took the lamp as permission until we didn't. I told Gabe I couldn't be reckless and then made out with him in the back office of the gym because I have never liked being told what I can't be. He pressed me against the file cabinets like paperwork mattered. I put my hand under his shirt because there are parts of a person you can only understand with your palm. He asked if I wanted to stop, and I said yes, and then said no, and then said yes again like a man auditioning for the role of adult. We stopped. He touched my face the way you touch a friend in the act of betraying him, and he said, "I hope you choose to be happy when it matters. It matters when people are kind while you don't deserve it. It matters when a lover puts his hand on your chest in his sleep, and the touch feels like an assignment you want to complete. It matters when a ficus refuses to die because it doesn't believe in metaphors." I told Luca the next morning I had kissed somebody without learning their middle name. He said he had, too. We stared at each other like a subway platform full of people choosing not to know anyone else. Then we said the only sentence worth saying when you have not decided yet whether you are heroes. We said, "Do you want to try?" Trying looked like this. Luca told Theo he could come over only if I was home. He did it like a man who had learned to walk on ice and found religion in friction. Theo came and pretended to like my work and sat on our couch like a cat said yes. I invited Gabe to a party where people couldn't shout a secret if they tried. He brought a friend to make it clear he understood invitations. Luca and I kept our hands in view and our mouths where our hands were. It worked for exactly the length you expect. There was a dinner at the restaurant after service for the team, the kind of thing that cements loyalty and loosens buttons. Thea found me smoking in the alley I didn't deserve to be in and looked like a man who practiced being an exception. He said, "He loves you." I said, "Be more careful with that." He stepped into my space like a sentence. I stepped back. He said, "You're right," and I trusted him less for it. He kissed me on the cheek because he wanted both of us to suffer in a way we could stomach. I went home. Luca came later. We slept on the same bed like a contract. The betrayal you want me to be specific about happened on a Sunday afternoon when nobody expects heat. Luca left for a tasting with potential investors and came back with a mouth that had forgotten domesticity. I asked him to go back and get me what he'd brought home. He went back. He didn't bring anything except honesty. He said I slept with him. He said it wasn't you. He said I didn't stop loving you for even a minute. I said that is the part that offends me. He cried and I did not. I don't like to give people an audience when they think they're auditioning. I called Gabe and asked if he wanted a coffee that was not a metaphor. He said he wanted to be useful. I met him at the bodega. We bought oranges. We went to his roof. We kissed until the city forgot to be dramatic. We undressed until being good seemed like a waste of time. He put his mouth on my neck, and I said the kind of please you save for when doors open by themselves. He pulled my hips to his, and I forgot my own headline. We stopped because we did not want to be stupid, only human. I went home and slept on the couch because I am more noble than I look and more cowardly than I sound. Luca slept beside the ficus like a penitent. The lamp stuttered. The radiator exhaled. We woke up at the same time and said, "We have to choose." He chose to stop seeing Theo. I believed him because he texted Theo in front of me with words that had nothing to do with wine. I chose to stop turning to a roof that was not mine. Gabe hugged me at the gym and whispered, "I'm glad we never learned how to be cruel to each other." The way his voice cracked was enough to keep me honest through a winter. We didn't become saints. We became competent. We went to a therapist who looked exactly like a therapist should and who told us to write down what we wanted and then read it to each other without apologizing. Luca said he wanted to cook on Sunday nights without criticism. I said I wanted him to kiss me before mornings learned to be difficult. He said he wanted me to stop using humor to make me sound like a person who doesn't want. I said I wanted him to stop treating love like a performance review. We stayed because staying was interesting again. The sex got better not because we forgave each other, but because we started telling the truth with our mouths before our hands did the same. He said here exactly where here meant. I said yes exactly how yes meant. We made the lamp earn its keep. We taught the ficus to survive on admiration and accidents. We took the index card down and wrote a new one. Don't audition for the wrong room. Kiss when it matters. Cook like someone's watching, and love like nobody cares what you've plated. Theo moved to a city with more forgiving light. Gabe started dating someone who reminded me of the handsome parts of me. I reviewed a pop-up that thought you could invent smoke. Luca got a job that made health insurance sound less like a fairy tale. The radiator hissed when it had an opinion. The sink kept up. Sometimes, on our balcony, we watch the city and let it try to write us. It doesn't succeed as often as it used to. He puts his hand on my thigh because it's there. I put my head on his shoulder because it fits. The ficus leans toward the window like a witness getting paid in light. And when people ask how we survived, we tell them what nobody wants to hear because it isn't pretty. We chose each other on purpose, and then we did the boring things the choosing required. We were brave enough to be dull when the plot begged us not to be. We named the plant Luca because we thought it was funny. He called it Devon because he thinks he's funnier. It lived. So did we.